Good afternoon. I'd like to thank you all for joining me this afternoon with this SharePad webinar. Just before we start, just make sure that if you haven't yet adjusted the video quality of your broadcast on YouTube, you can do so by pressing the options button as it says on the screen at the moment. Hopefully everyone's done that, so I'm going to get started. So today I'm going to do a webinar that looks at changes that we've made recently to the filtering process within SharePad and the additional technical analysis capabilities that we have also added to it. Now, a while ago I did do a webinar on the fundamental filtering, and if you haven't already had a look at that, you can click up here on the options menu, so at the top right there where the white cog is, and you can click on that button and you can go to our training zone. And sorry, you can go to the training zone, and the training zone includes lots of articles and videos that, if you haven't had a look at, are well worth delving into to get the most out of the product. But right at the bottom of the training zone, you'll find the previous webinars that I did towards the end of last year. So if you haven't had a look at the previous ones, that's where you can find them. So I'm just going to close the training zone, go back to SharePad. So the first thing I want to look at today, some of the changes we made to the library recently for filtering in SharePad. Now, filtering in SharePad is the way to drill down through a list of stocks to find stocks that meet a series of criteria that you have defined or have been defined in one of the filters that you've downloaded from the library. So not so long ago, what we did, if we click on the blue filter button here on the blue side of the window and we go to apply filter, you can see we have our filter window, and at the bottom right of the filter window we have our library. And we click on the library. The library is a repository of filters that we have created, examples and also ones, as we will see, based on articles by Phil Oakley. And we had a few of them and they were just in a single list, but what we've done now is we've broken them down into categories as well as having them all in a single list. So at the top now you can see we have show and we have all filters, and we can click on that drop down and you can see we have the guru filters, we have strategy, we have Phil Oakley's articles, etc. We have ones on technical, and when we click on them, let's say we go to Phil Oakley's articles, they then reduce to just those filters that relate to that category. Now, in addition to this, you can see that we have added a little blue button here on the right hand side that says LSE shares. If we scroll up, we can see one that says bonds. If I go back to all filters and we scroll down all of them, you can see there's one that says investment trusts. Now, I will come into the meaning of that later on in the article, but I just wanted to draw your attention to those particular buttons right now in case you were wondering what they are. They define the list that the filter opens up on when you first select the filter and click on OK. We'll have a look at that in about 5 minutes. Before I do that, I want to have a look at just a couple of other things that we can do in the library. If I go back to Phil Oakley's articles, when we look at Phil Oakley's articles, if we click on any of the particular filters, what we'll get is we'll get a description, and it says from Phil Oakley's articles, and you can see the articles are all numbered, and it gives a description, and then it also gives a hyperlink to the actual article. So if we click on the hyperlink, we'll actually open up the article, and we go my 5 rules for safe dividends, and you can scroll down and you can actually see the particular filter being used in the actual article. So any article written by Phil Oakley that actually references a filter, you can now find that filter in the library. If we go back to the Phil Oakley section of our website, so I can either go up here on the top toolbar or I can go to here and we scroll down, first we get the step-by-step guides to investment analysis, and then we get the library of his articles. You can see that all of the articles are actually numbered. And so if you pick one and you can see the number, then you can also go into the library, find that article by its number, and you can then select it. And if you want to, you can click on install. And you can see also now when we click on install, by the filter in the library, it actually shows that it has been installed, so you don't try and install ones that you have already installed. So we're going to go on close. You can see we've got Phil Oakley's article here. Now you can see this says LSE shares, and as I say, this will change the list when we actually click on OK and apply the filter. So you can see at the moment, if you look behind this window at my blue side of my screen, that I'm actually on the FTSE 100 list. So now if I click on OK on my Phil Oakley article filter, you can see we've changed to the LSE shares list. It's called the associated list, and it only changes the list when we actually apply the filter. We can actually still change our list. I could go to the FTSE 350 button here, and you can see it changes to the FTSE 350 list. I could go to say FTSE All Share, and it would apply it to the FTSE All Share using the other list button. So it only changes it when you actually apply the filter. But it is useful, especially if we go back to the filter library, especially when you've got filters that are specifically, say, for investment trusts. It just means that you can then make sure that the filter that is being applied to the right list. Can everybody hear me? I'll carry on. I'll assume that everyone can still hear me. The video seems to be working. So, for example, this particular filter, cheap high-performing investment trust, would open on the investment trust list for obvious reasons. We've also introduced a search feature. Now, I could search for something like uptrend, and I will find there is a filter called strong uptrend. And you can see it finds it because it found it as part of the name. I can also search for more generic terms. Let's say I search just for high. Now you can see here that I've got the 1-year highs and the 10-year highs, but then I've got 10 years turnover and EPS growth, and it doesn't appear to mention high in the title. So if we just click on that and we look into the description, it says this filter identifies companies which have grown their turnover and profits for the last 10 years running. Forecast turnover and profits are also higher. So it's picked up the word high from higher as the last part of that word in the description. So when you search, it doesn't just search for the title, it searches in the description as well. So you have the categorization now, you have the ability to search. It will flag when a particular filter has been installed, like the Phil Oakley article there. Also, if there are any new filters that we've put up, they will also be flagged, and they will have a big red new button applied to them. We haven't added any recently, so there aren't any, but you will see them if you do check the library from time to time. Any new filters we add to the library will be flagged with a big red new button. So those are just some of the changes we've made recently to the library. I just wanted to highlight those before I go on to the body of this webinar, which is to look at the technical analysis filtering capabilities in SharePad and the enhancements we made to this in a recent release. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close the library, and I'm going to actually create one of several new filters. So actually let's go from the start. So if we close out and we exit this filter here. So here I am, I'm in my list. You go to the filter button, there's a little blue filter button. If you can't see the little blue filter button, it's quite often because you have a column selected. Now you can see I've selected the name column, and you can see the bright red dot. That helps to indicate that the column is selected, but you can see now I cannot select the filter button. So I either have to click on the column to deselect it, or I use the deselect button, and then I can see my filter button. So I click on filter, I click on apply filter, and I want to create a new filter. And the first filter I'm going to look at is a very simple filter based on moving average. Moving averages are, in my opinion, probably one of the simplest and probably the first technical analysis metrics that people tend to learn about when they look at technical analysis. So we're just going to look at a long period moving average, the 150 simple moving average, and we're going to make sure that it's rising. So in my name, I'm going to type 150 SMA. Actually, let's make that capitals. There we go. And then we're going to do rising. So there's a 150 simple moving average. In this case, 150 will be days, so it will be a daily chart. And it's rising. I'm not going to put in the description, and you can see the associated list option here now. So if I wanted to, I could apply the associated list, but for this particular filter, there's no need for me to apply an associated list. So I'm going to click on OK. And now I've created my filter. It's highlighted, so I can click on OK again. And what happens is we get a new table. So we have a number, TIDM, a name, and we have the add criteria button, and we have the exit button. So what we want to do is we want to add a criteria. When we click on add criteria, what opens up is the add criteria window. The add criteria window with a few small exceptions. It's pretty much the same as the add column dialog. So if you're used to the add column dialog, you should be fairly used to using this one. And you'll notice we have various tabs: price, company, funds and bonds, and at the far right hand side we have technical. And what we went through and we did very recently is we added entries for every indicator and analytic that you can find in the program. There's a couple of small exceptions which should be rectified shortly. Trend lines is one we're going to be adding in the not too distant future, but you should find pretty much everything else you're looking for, things like average true range, directional movement or the ADX, and the one I'm looking for, which is moving average. So when we select moving average, you can see in the top left quadrant you have moving average, and we have our type, which is simple, and our length, which is in periods, and in this case we're going to make that 150. You remember, if you look at the name of our filter up here, it says 150 SMA rising, so we have to make it sure it's 150 periods simple. Because it's rising, we're looking at the change in the value. So in the bottom left hand quadrant here we have the variant, and that's already set to value, so I don't need to change that for the moment. And in the bottom right hand quadrant, it says latest value. I want the change in the latest value, so I'm going to select percentage from, and I'm going to change the period to go to 10, which is 2 trading weeks, and hopefully that should mean that if we look at a positive change, then it should guarantee that our moving average is actually rising. So just to do a quick recap, I changed my moving average periods, I'd left the type as simple, I left the variant as value, and I changed the periods to 10 and the type to percentage from. So the percentage change from 10 periods ago. In this case, periods is defined here and is daily. With that all selected, I'm going to click on OK. And what happens is that my criterion gets added. Let's make my blue screen full screen for the moment. So we use our maximize list view button at the top of our window. And you can see that I've got MA 150 SMA percentage change since 10 trading days ago. And then I have a minimum value and a maximum value. And we want it to be rising. So we want a positive change. So let's say we want a positive change, but we want a reasonably significant positive change. So let's say 1%. We could say 0.5%, or we could say even less, like a fractional, sort of 0.01%. So that would be just a fraction of a rise, but not a fall. But in this case, I want the rise to be significant, so I'm going to do at least 1%. And a 1% rise over 2 weeks is fairly reasonable. Now that I've set my minimum value, I don't need to worry about setting a maximum value. That's just going to be whatever the maximum rise actually is. And I'm going to click on apply. So now I've clicked on apply. We can see the column that was added when I added my criteria. And I've got MA, 150 SMA, percentage change since 10 days ago. And we can see all the different values. If I sort the column, so if I click on it, click on the sort button, we now get the maximum rise, which is 8.5%. But if I sort it again, then it sorts in the reverse order, and you can see that my minimum rise is 1.0029%, so just a little tiny bit over 1%. So let's have a look at our chart and see what our chart looks like now we've created our filter. So I'm going to come up to the green button and do maximize the green view. And that moving average looks like it's rising okay. Let's use the space bar to step down some shares. And then I look at that one and I think, hold on a second, that's not rising, that's falling. So something's wrong. So if I now use the split view, I've got a moving average here, and my filter says 150 SMA, but what moving average is this? If it's falling, maybe it's not the right one. So if I go to the add button, one thing we did recently is we added some extensions to the legend. And so when we add the legend, we can do show name and analytics now, and we click on OK. And you can see it's a 200 period EMA, and I wanted a 150 period SMA, so it's not the same moving average. And that's why we're showing a moving average that's going down when our filter says it's going up. So what I did is before I came on air, I created a couple of settings, and I've added their buttons to the toolbar down at the bottom of the screen. So I've got a little 2-year chart here that, as we can see, has 150 SMA applied to it. So if I just make that maximized, so maximize the green view again, we can see that my 150 SMA is rising. And if I change share, we will see that they are all nicely rising. So I'm pressing space to progress down my list, and it's going down the list in the order in which I sorted it. If you're on a tablet, then you'll have buttons you can use that will appear in the bottom right of the chart that you can use to step up and step down. If you have a keyboard, space will step you down, shift and space will step you back up. Now if we look at Diploma PLC here for as an example, we can see that the price actually has dropped below the moving average, and that could be seen as a bad sign. So what we might want to do is we might want to add an additional criteria to our chart, to our filter, excuse me, to say that the price must be above the moving average to exclude these sorts of situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my filter, and rather than amend my existing filter, I'm going to copy it and then add another criterion to it. So if we go back to our blue side, I'm going to go to the filter button, and I'm going to go to apply filter. I'm going to select my 150 SMA rising, and I'm going to use the copy button to copy it. And you can see now it says copy of 150 SMA rising. I don't think that's a particularly useful name, so what we're going to do is we're going to do edit details, and edit details is going to let me change the name. So I'm going to do price above 150 SMA and MA rising. So there we go, we've given it a new name, price above 150 SMA and MA rising. We'll click on OK, and now what we can do is we now have our copy, so we can select OK. And now we need to add a criterion that looks at the relationship between the price and the moving average. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click on Add Criteria, and we're going to go to Technical and scroll down, find Moving Average. I could use the search box and search for moving average, but it's fairly easy just to scroll down the left hand side, find moving average and select it. We have to change our moving average again to 150. And then we look at the variant box, and the variant box plays a very important role when you're looking at technical analysis filtering. Where it says value, this is a drop down list, and if we click on it, you can see I have dead cross and golden cross, and I'm going to create a filter based on a golden cross shortly. You can see I've got price crossed MA, I have ratio MA to MA, so that's the ratio between two moving averages, and I've got ratio price to MA. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the relationship basically between the price and the moving average. So I'm going to select ratio price to MA. I just want to know that the price is above the moving average, so I can leave this on latest value. And then with those selected, so actually because I've changed the variant, my length's changed, so let's just change that back to 150. There we go, that's better. So simple 150, ratio price to MA, latest value. That's how I want it set up, so that's all good. So I'm going to click on OK. So when you do the ratio between the price and the moving average, even though the price is above, the price has to have a larger value. And so basically we want results of 1 or larger. 1 would be a perfect ratio, so they'd actually have the same value. So what we could do is a fractional one. So in our minimum value on our new criterion, we could do 1.001, or we could go smaller if you wanted to, 1.0001. That would actually capture Randgold resources, which is why I added the extra 0. So I mean about just ever so slightly greater than 1 basically, and that will make sure that the price is above the moving average. So we click on Apply, and again we could sort if we wanted to. There to sort, I double clicked on the column heading rather than selecting the column and using the sort button. But you can see that there you go, Clarkson is my absolute minimum value. Now if we look at our chart, might only just be above, but the price is just above the moving average. We saw that ratio value was almost 1 o'clock. Not 1 o'clock. There you can see it's just crept back above the moving average. There you go, you can see it's clearly above the moving average, but it is above, and that's the point. So in all these cases, the moving average is above the price is above the moving average. Get that the right way around. Sorry about that. So let's go back to my filter screen. Now that was one way to do it, and basically you have to understand the way ratios work to understand how this is working. But there is an easier way to do it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this criteria and I'm going to add a new one. And instead of using the ratio option, I'm going to use combine items. And I'll show you the difference, and maybe you'll understand why I think it's slightly easier to do. So we're going to trash can this one. And you can see when we trash can it, it removes the column as well. And I'm going to select Apply. And now we're back to how we were originally. And now I'm going to click on Add Criteria. And I'm going to use Combine Items down in the bottom left hand side of the Add Criteria dialog. And in Combine Items, we've got Accumulation Distribution on the left hand side, and we've got Select on the right hand side in our pale blue buttons. And in the middle you can see we have Mathematical Operator. It's actually set to is greater than, which is exactly what I want it to be set to. So what we want is we want the price. So we'll select this button and we'll go to price and we'll do the latest price. We'll click on OK. So just to reiterate, I clicked on the blue button and then I selected price and then latest price, and we want is greater than, we want it to be greater than the 150 SMA. So we click on select, and we go to technical, we find moving average, we want the 150 simple moving average, we want its value, and we want its latest value. So it's that simple. Just all I have to do is change the length to 150, and we click on OK. So I've got the price is greater than the 150 SMA, and we click on OK. And now when we click on OK with this one, we get ticks, and the ticks represent shares where the price is greater than. So if we click on apply now, we don't have to mess around with numbers. We don't have to do 1.0001 to make the ratios ever so slightly greater than 1. It's just, is it greater? Yes or no. And the ticks represent the yeses. And so there you go. I think that if you understand the combine items dialog, that's a lot simpler to do than the ratio. But there are two ways of doing it, and some people will prefer one, and I figure some people will prefer the other. Now hopefully you're aware of both. So I said I was going to have a look at the golden cross. So let's create a new filter and have a look at how a golden cross filter will work. So we click on filter, we click on apply filter, and we're going to create a new one. And in this case we're going to do 2550 EMA. So we're going to use exponential moving averages on this one, and we're just going to call it golden cross. Fairly simple description. 25 EMA, so 25 period EMA is the shorter period, so that will be crossing above the 50 period EMA, which is the longer period. And that will indicate that the share is entering into an uptrend and is described as being a golden cross. Again, I'm not going to worry about description or the associated list, and we're going to click on OK. So we've got our filter now, and we're going to click on OK again. So now again we're ready to add criteria to our filter, and it's very simple to the way we did it before. So we do add criteria. We're already on technical. We're going to scroll down, find moving average. But this time, as we looked at before, we're going to go into variant. We're going to select value, and we're going to do golden cross. Now when we do golden cross, you can see a couple of things happen. Firstly, we get a second moving average up in the top right, and secondly the options have changed. So let's go through it slowly. Top left, we want our short period moving average, so changing the type to exponential and setting our periods to 25. Top right, we want our longer period moving average, so again I'm going to change the type to exponential, and I'm going to make my period 50. So don't forget I call it 25, 50 EMA golden cross, so 25 exponential, 50 exponential. Golden cross is set, the period is set to daily, so that's all good. And now we have different options. So we have a look back, and the look back determines how many days the filter is going to look back to see if the cross actually happened. If we wanted the cross just to happen in the last day, we'd set the look back to 1. If we want to look back a little bit further, then we could use 1, 2, 3, or the default was 5, or if we really want to go much further back, we can go to a maximum of 10. I'm just going to look at those that have just crossed, so I'm going to look for 1. And the other option we have is only true golden cross, and it says MA2 must also be rising. As a golden cross is where the short period is crossing above the long period, if the long period is going down, you'll end up with an image on the chart of your moving averages that looks like an X, and it doesn't really tell you anything. What we're trying to look for is shares that are actually moving into an uptrend and are moving upwards with some momentum. So we tick only true golden cross. MOT must be rising. And now we've got that set, we click on OK, and Again, this is a what we call a bit filter. It's a yes or no situation. It's have they risen, have they crossed, excuse me, or have they not crossed. So we don't have any values to set. We just have to hit apply, and those shares where we do have a cross appear, and you can see they have ticks. So if I have a look at my chart now, we already looked at my chart a little bit earlier on, and we were ascertained that it has a 150 SMA on it, so that's not the moving averages we want to look at. So as I said, I created a second chart setting where I put the 25 exponential moving average and the 50 exponential moving average onto the chart, and you can see that they are just crossing. Now that's not necessarily that clear, so let's just zoom in. So I'm holding down the left mouse button, I'm going to select a period of the chart and let go, and we can't see the moving averages. So what we do is use the up arrow on my keyboard, and the up arrow on my keyboard enables me to compress the range of data on the chart, and you can now see that the moving averages are on the screen and they are crossing. The down arrow conversely expands the range on the chart, the up arrow increases the range. I could also have taken my mouse to the right hand side of the chart, held down the mouse button, or if you've got your finger you can drag it up and down, and I could have dragged the range up or down to see the moving averages once I'd zoomed in. Hit reset zoom, takes me back out. Press space, it takes me down to my next share. That one's actually more visible, we can see that they've crossed. Press space again, that one's just about visible, although we could zoom in and have a look if we wanted to. This rather steep increase is almost certainly guaranteeing that the moving averages have crossed. There's a question in chat. It says, is there a way to add Bollinger and Keltner band crossovers to look for volatility breakdowns? That's one of the things that's coming. So one of our developers is actually working on that at the moment, and I would expect to see that in a future release. May not necessarily be the next release, but I would think in one of the next few releases it will definitely be added. Okay, so that was my golden cross filter. So I'm going to go back to the blue side. I'm going to look at a different analytic now. We've had a look at moving averages for a couple of the filters I've created, and now I'm going to look at the RSI. So if we have a look at the RSI, we want to create a new filter. So we're going to go to filter, going to go to apply filter, and we're going to click on new. So we're going to do the 14 RSI cross above 65. So basically, when the RSI gets too high, the share is considered to be overbought, and we expect the price to start falling. If it was to drop below a given level, then we expect it to be oversold and the price to start rising. So in this case, doing the RSI cross above 65. We're going to click on OK. Just another quick question in chat says, why exponential with the moving averages? I just wanted an example to show you how to change the types. Exponentials technically move a little bit faster than simples. They use a slightly different calculation on the way they average out. They use all of the history, and the further back you go in history, the less weighting that price has. But it was just a choice just to show you can change the type of moving average. So we're on our 14 RSI cross above 65, and we're going to click on OK. And just like before, we need to click on our criteria. And we're on technical, we're going to find RSI. We could search RSI, relative strength index, there we go. Could have just scrolled down and found it. You can do either, it's quite easy. And it's at the top we've got indicator periods, and we've got 20, and we've got our variant, and we've got the value. So we want it crossing above a value. So what we want to do is crossed level. We wanted a 14 period RSI. So we're doing 14 periods, crossed level, daily, that's fine. Crossed above, and it says level, and it says 70. Now, I'm going to do 65. There's a reason I'm reducing it to 65, as I'll show you shortly. And look back periods, we can have a look back at 5, or in the same way as we did with going crosses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Let's just set it to 5, leave it on 5. And we're going to click on OK. And again, this is saying, has it crossed above, yes or no? So again, this is one of those situations where we're just going to see ticks, so we need to hit our apply button. And there we go. So we've got plenty of shares to look at. So let's go back to our chart, maximize green view. So this chart is my exponential moving average chart. So I'm just going to switch back using my toolbar button at the bottom to my 150 SMA chart. And that's got a MACD on it, but no RSI. So let's go to buy and hold. Aha, on buy and hold, look, we have the RSI. But hold on a second, that's a 20 period RSI. And if I just go to a split view, I wanted a 14 period RSI. So let's go back to our chart full screen and let's edit this RSI. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to indicators, and you can see when we click on indicators we have our RSI. So I'm going to click on edit, and I have my indicator. I'm going to change it to 14 periods. You can also see this is a new feature we've added. You have levels, and you can actually add as many levels as you like. In this case, by default, you've got 30, 50, and 70, and you can see we're drawing grey lines on the RSI at 30, 50, and 70. Now, I changed my upper value to 65, so let's change this one to 65, and then equally, I presume we would have to change that to 35 to be balanced. Don't have to, could have left it at 30. And then we click on OK. And we'll click on OK again. And you can see that we have shading on the RSI chart now. So when it goes above the upper level that you set, whatever your upper level is, your highest value, when it goes above it, it's going to be shaded as overbought. And when it goes below whatever level you set, then it's shaded green here, and that's classed as oversold. And if we go into design on the chart, we go to style. So I clicked on design, which is down the bottom left hand, the green design button, went into style. You can see we've got fill indicator levels, and we've got the overbought color and the oversold color. So we could change the colors if we wanted to there. I'm going to leave them as red and green for now, but I just wanted to show you where they were and basically what they were doing. So we can see this one's just edged above 65. Let's see if we've got, there you go, you can see this one's gone above, and there's a little tiny bit of red colouring. You may just be able to see that. Now this is interesting because we did a look back of 5. This one has actually crossed back above in the last 5 days, but it's actually gone back below. And there you go, this one's crossed above and continued to go up, and you can see the red shading quite clearly there. So on a lot of the indicators now, you'll find that you now have levels that you can input. So if you don't want the levels that are set by default, say the 70 and 30, you can adjust them yourself. And you do have this extra shading that you have that above the upper level and below the lower level. So that's the RSI. Let's go back to our filter window. I can arrange for some of the filters. Some of them, like the Golden Cross, already have examples on the library. But if you want me to, I can arrange for the other ones to be updated onto there. As examples, that's not a problem. I'll get them put onto the library in the next few days. So I'd like to look at something a little bit more complex. What we've done at the moment, we've looked at 1 or 2 criteria in our filters, and so I'm going to look at something that's a little bit more complex. I'm going to look at shares where the MACD has crossed above its signal line, but it's crossed above its signal line when the MACD is below 0, and that the share is already in an uptrend. Now, we already looked at earlier on, we looked at a filter where we had the 150 SMA rising, and that is a way of determining that the share is in an uptrend is when you have a very long period moving average that is actually going upwards. So we're going to start with that. So let's go all the way back and we're going to copy that filter, create a new one. So I'm going to go to filter, I'm going to go to apply filter. So I've got my 150 SMA rising. Again, I'm going to copy it. Again, we get copy of 150 SMA rising. This time I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to call it MACD cross in an uptrend. To give you a description here, so I'm going to do the MACD. Excuse me. Yep, no, that was right. MACD cross above signal and below 0, and the 150 SMA rising. And actually, I'm going to do the price above the SMA as well. I probably should have copied the other filter we created earlier on, but I can add that as a criterion without a problem. Above the SMA. So there you go, I've added a bit of a description because MACD crossing an uptrend doesn't necessarily tell you all of the information there. So we've got MACD cross above signal and below 0, and the 150 SMA rising and the price above the SMA. I could probably put better grammar in there, but I think that does the job. So we're going to click on OK. So we've got MACD crossing uptrend, click on OK. So we start out, we've got the MA 150 SMA percentage change since 10 days ago, so we know the moving average is rising. So let's use the combine items to do the prices above the moving average. So we're going to do add criteria, combine items. So we need to change our left hand one to price. So we're going to click on the button, select price, select latest price, click on OK. Is greater than, we're going to click on select, and we're going to go to technical. We're going to scroll down to moving average, and we want the 150 simple moving average value, latest value. That's all good. Click on OK. So the price is greater than the 150 SMA. That's fine. So we click on OK. We click on apply. Don't strictly have to click on apply every time you add a new criterion. I like to do so, but you could add a whole series of criterion and then click on apply at the end, and it would just apply them all in one go. I just like to see the list of results getting smaller as I add each one. So now we need to look at the MACD, and we need to look at the MACD cross above the signal, and we need to make sure the MACD is below 0. So I'm going to click on add criteria. And I'm going to scroll down and find MACD, and I'm not going to change any of the MACD parameters. We want the value because we want to know it's below 0. We want the latest value. That's all good. So not going to change anything there at all whatsoever. Going to click on OK. But because we are looking at this value, we want it below 0. So the maximum value has to be minus 0.001, something along those lines. Very, very small negative number. Again, as I say, you don't have to, but I'm going to click on apply. And now we need to make sure the MACD is crossed. So I'm going to click on add criteria, and I'm going to scroll down and find MACD. And again, as I said, the variant's important, so we're going to click on the variant. And you can see we can find the value of the signal, we can find the value of the histogram, and then we've got various cross options. These are all crossing above 0, and then we've got crossed main and signal, and that's what we want. So the main has crossed above the signal, so you can see the options here. And the look back, we want to put that onto 1, so it's just happened. This is effectively our buy signal. So crossed main and signal above. Look back period's 1. click on OK. Finally we click on apply, and again this is another tick option. So there we go, we've got our 4 criteria. We've got the moving average is rising, we've got the price is above the moving average, we've got the MACD is below 0, and we've got the MACD has crossed above its signal. So let's have a look at our chart using our maximize green view button. Now we need to switch back to my 2-year chart. Just a point, I'm using 2 charts that I created, and I created toolbar buttons for those charts. There is an article, and also I did a webinar about technical analysis and how to set up chart settings and those sorts of things. So again, if you're wondering how to do that, you're not sure how I've got to do that, don't forget to go up, click on options, take a look at the training zone. So one of my previous webinars does cover that, but there is also training zone articles that also cover how to do those sorts of things as well. So here we have our price, it's above our 150 SMA, our 150 SMA is rising nicely, and if we look down here we can just about see the cross. Let's try doing a bit of a zoom in, just about see that my purple line, which is my MACD line, has crossed above my signal, which is my very faint lilac-y pink line. And you can also see that the histogram on the MACD has just about turned green. Now what we can do is, if I take my mouse, I can make my indicator bigger by dragging the bar at the top of the indicator panel upwards. So there you go, I've made my indicator bigger, and you can just about see that the histogram there has turned green, and that indicates that the cross has happened. And it's a little extra visual way of seeing that the cross has happened, so that it's crossing up. We press space to go down my list. Again, you might want to zoom in a bit. And again, you can see that's turned green. Price is above moving average is moving up, and that's all good. And we could work down the list and we can check each one of our results, and they'll all be similar because the filter's working exactly the way we want it to. So those are some example technical analysis filters for you. What I wanted to do is get a feel for the fact that first of all, everything's under technical. Secondly, that the variant option within the moving average, or within the MACD, or within any of the other analytics is very important, because you find moving average, and then in variant you'll find golden cross. You find MACD, then in variant you'll find MACD cross above the signal. Or as we looked earlier, you find the RSI, and if you want the RSI crossed above a level, that's in the variant as well. So the variant plays a very key important role on all of the analytics we have. Again, as I say, have a look at the training zone. It will give you more information about setting up the charts. Whenever you're creating your filters, make sure your filters are the same as what's showing on your chart. It's the most common cause of confusion. Especially with things like moving average types, where you could have, say, an exponential moving average set on the chart and a simple moving average set in your filter, and so one thing doesn't look like the other. It's quite a common thing we deal with in support. And also, if you need any help, if you're trying to set up a filter and you're not sure quite what to do, you can always give us a call at support. We're open Monday to Friday from 8 to 6. Our contact number you'll find if you come up again to options, it says contact support. There's our email address, support@sharepad.co.uk. There's our contact telephone number. We do guarantee to answer all your emails within 24 hours during the working week, but you'll find that we answer the emails much more quickly than that. We're usually quite on the ball with them. As I say, we're open from 8 till 6. If you want to give us a call, give us a call. We're not just there for if the program goes wrong, we're there to help you get the most out of it. I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar. I'm hopefully going to do some more in the not too distant future, so keep an eye on your emails. If you've got any questions, one of my colleagues will be keeping an eye on chat if you want to post anything in there, or as I say, drop us a line in support. Thank you very much for coming and joining with me this afternoon.